All right, guys, so today we got to start off with a feel-good story, okay? A story that will never, ever make it to the mainstream liberal media. And the reason why is because it doesn't fit the narrative that the Democrat Party is currently trying to push, right? It does not help the agenda that the Democrats are currently trying to push in Congress when it comes to trying to stop gun violence and mass shootings from happening in school, right? The Democrats, for whatever reason, think that the only way to stop mass shootings or acts of violence from happening in school is to take everybody's guns, right? That is what they believe, okay? However, people on the right and conservatives have proposed solutions that are grounded in common sense that don't take away people's Second Amendment rights, right? That is not in violation of the Constitution. And this situation right here really highlights when the conservative solution goes right, right? When things go right and what is supposed to happen when schools are following safety protocols and police officers are doing their job, right? So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this story involving a man who attempted to get into an elementary school. Okay, however, the doors were locked and the police were subsequently called, and the school resource officer ended up smoking the individual that was trying to get into this elementary school. Take a look.
I had to deal with these situations in Uvalde and Sandy Hook several years ago. You never think it's going to happen in your school, and we're very blessed that the same situation didn't occur here.
Gadsden's Walnut Park Elementary School, the scene of a fatal officer-involved shooting this morning. It happened outside the school while children enrolled in summer programs were inside. Now, officers say the man killed had attempted to gain entrance to the school.
He never made it inside. He was shot by a Rainbow City police officer outside the school. The school, by the way, as you see here, is across the street from a neighborhood in the western part of Gadsden. ABC 3340's Aaron Wise is on the scene. Aaron, the children were there for summer programs. Did they know what was going on?
No, they didn't. The Gadsden City School Superintendent tells me that the 34 children who were inside this building earlier today had no idea what was unfolding out in front of the building. Dr. Tony Reddick says the children thought they were actually practicing the safety drills that they had learned throughout the week. Now, here's what we know about this incident. The Alabama Law Enforcement Agency is investigating the officer-involved shooting. Aaliyah says a man was trying to get into the school resource officer's patrol vehicle. When the officer attempted to stop him, the suspect went for the officer's gun. The SRO, who is a Rainbow City police officer, called for backup. Gadsden police responded. Ultimately, the suspect was shot and killed. The Gadsden City School Superintendent confirmed the suspect did try to get into that building.
As best I know, there's a potential intruder. Apparently, there was a gentleman who was, coming around to several doors trying to get inside the building. Our principal was alerted immediately. She ran around to make sure that all those buildings were secure, which they already were.
Etowah County Sheriff Jonathan Horton says a person driving through the area also noticed the person and called police.
They even recognized that there's something not right. And so when the call came in and they notified the school resource officer, he then came out of the school, engaged the subject in conversation, and apparently had a conversation with him for a few moments and tried to de-escalate the individual. And then he called for backup. And then when backup arrived, it continued until what we have here now.
Now, as for that suspect, he's been identified as Robert Tyler White. White is from North Carolina. At this time, it's not clear whether White had a weapon on him of some sorts. Now, first at 5, you'll hear from the neighbor who lives right across the street from this school about what he saw today. Live in Gadsden, Aaron Wise, ABC 3340 News.
Yeah, guys, so there you have it. This is what happens when you have proper safety protocols being followed by school and you have police officers doing their jobs. Congratulations to everybody involved. Okay, you potentially saved the lives of innocent kids because you followed safety protocols and police did their job. Okay, this is what is supposed to happen. Now, this incident happened out in Alabama, maybe a few miles away from the Georgia border. Okay, now, with that being said, Democrats hate stories like this. And the reason why is because, again, it goes directly against the narrative that we have to take everybody's guns in order to stop tragedies from happening in these schools. And that's just simply not true, right? Remember, Joe Biden came out and said he doesn't believe in hardening schools. Well, because this school was hardened, that stopped that guy from getting into the school, right? Because the school was following proper safety protocols and having the doors be locked, right? Not having the doors be open. Now, apparently at Uvalde, there's mixed stories about whether or not the door was actually open. There's a story that says that the teacher opened up the door and left it open for whatever reason. There's a story that says that she actually closed the door, but the door was still unlocked. Again, it's very clear that some safety protocols were not followed during the Uvalde incident. But again, had the doors been locked, that could have bought more time for police to get there before that shooter was able to get inside of the school. Like this situation right here, where police were called, okay, they were made aware of this when this guy was trying to break into the school. Because the doors was locked, he wasn't able to get into the school. Police showed up and confronted the individual like they're supposed to and smoked him, right? Took care of the individual. Now, again, out in Uvalde, there's different stories about whether or not a school resource officer was actually there. Okay, initially, the reports were that a school resource officer was there and, exchanged shots with the individual, but somehow the individual still got inside. Now they're saying that the school resource officers were never there. He actually passed by the suspect when the suspect was, out in the ditch somewhere, had crashed his car in the ditch, that the school resource officer didn't see him, okay, or something like that. I personally believe that the school resource officer probably saw the individual with that rifle and said, you know what, I'm not about this life. I'm going to go, take a lunch break or something. I personally believe in my heart of hearts that's what happened. I hope not. But because that story keeps changing, I think that guy probably just was like, I'm not about to take on this individual. But with that being said, again, we do have a school resource officer who did his job and confronted that individual, right? Again, this is what's supposed to happen. But Democrats, on the other hand, when it comes to legislation to try to protect kids, they don't want to pass legislation that's going to harden schools. Okay, they don't want to pass legislation that's going to help schools improve their safety standards and save lives. They don't want to pass legislation that is going to have armed guards at all of these schools. They don't want to pass that type of legislation. Okay, they don't want to because it doesn't fit the agenda, even though that is what can be immediately done to save lives. And that should be bipartisan. Because let's say the Democrats do get what they want on gun control. They won't, but let's say they get the ban on so-called assault rifles, right? Which really is a ban on modern sporting rifles. That's what they're actually really trying to ban. Let's say they get that ban. First of all, most gun violence is not committed with these rifles. Only a very, very, very small percentage of gun violence is committed with rifles. But again, let's say they got what they want. Right? That still would not stop people from committing these acts of violence with handguns. Okay? Now, it's uncertain whether or not this individual in this situation was armed. We don't know. But he definitely had bad intentions, for sure. If he's trying to fight the police officer and take the police officer's weapon to the point where the police officer has to kill the guy, yeah, he had bad intentions. In which he could have hurt with these kids with his hands, with his fists. If he had a weapon, he could have hurt them with his weapon. He could have hurt them in all types of ways. So again, even if you ban rifles, that doesn't stop people from trying to get into these schools and hurt kids. Okay, either with a handgun or with other kinds of weapons. That doesn't stop them from doing that. What actually stopped this guy was proper school safety protocols and a good guy with a gun, right? That is what actually stopped the guy. Okay, that's what stopped him. So again, Democrats, in my opinion, it's just so sad that they don't want to do the bipartisan thing, something that is common sense that we should do regardless of what you do on gun control. We should do this. And then, hey, you can have all the conversations that you want about gun control. They don't want to do that because they really don't care. They really don't care about protecting these kids, right? They don't care because if they cared, they would do what can be done now, what everybody should agree with, that everybody says, okay, well, let's do this right now. And then y'all can talk about the stuff that you disagree on. But again, unfortunately, that's not the way politics works. Unfortunately, politicians are incentivized to let bad things happen, because every mass shooting, they can turn around and point the finger at the Republicans. They can point the finger at the NRA. They can point the finger at gun owners. They can point the finger at everybody to say it's their fault except the shooter. And they won't point their finger at the shooter, especially if the shooter is not white. Okay, they won't point the finger at the shooter, and they won't point the finger at themselves for not passing common sense legislation to make sure these schools are properly protected. Okay, so again, this situation right here, this is what happens when you use common sense. This is what's supposed to happen, and in my opinion, this is why every school in this country should be armed, okay, with armed security, and they should have the proper safety protocols in place. However, Democrats are currently, right, just fighting against that. That's something that they don't want, okay? Because again, for them, they see mass shootings as politically good. That I'm just saying that is how messed up these politicians are. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.